I'm Stacy Waldrop with First National Bank, and Dwayne and I work together in the Winston area, Greensboro as well. First National Bank has over 350 offices in 6 states, and we can assist with banking services from individuals and families and businesses. And we are a full service bank, and we enjoy assisting customers in making their dreams come true, basically, and just helping them save time and money. And just like Catherine, being able to meet folks out in the community and understand what is their passion, and helping that to come to fruition. And by the way, Catherine sells the best chocolate covered strawberries. And we had some of those over Valentine's. So just put a
Yeah.
little plug in for her. And so our bank is a regional bank, and so if you're looking for someone to help you, move your business forward, if you're looking for a relationship, we're the bank that you would like to partner with. So I've been in banking for 15 years, and just enjoy the relationship with folks, get to know their names. A lot of times I know the voices over the phone. I get very close with my customers and understanding their passion. So enjoy that. But Dwayne, did you have anything that you wanted to share as well?
That's going to be tough to follow, but yeah. So I work with Stacy. I'm a partner. Uh, I focus primarily on businesses and business credit, and so one of my passion is entrepreneurship, and so I enjoy working with entrepreneurs and people who are looking to grow and expand their business, and actually currently working on a credit 101 session where we can get aspiring entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs to understand how the bank look at credit. And so if you feel you might need credit in the future, or you just need information to be prepared, and maybe you're 2 years away, maybe 3 years away. One of the things that I want to do is be a resource to young entrepreneurs, and being able to help you navigate that space and understand what are some of the things the bank are going to look at, what are some of the things that needs to be focused on, and then also what type of conversations you should be having with your CPA or your tax accountant, whoever's handling your financials and doing your taxes, so that whenever you're ready and the need arises, and you're looking to grow your business and take it to that next level, and you need that capital, we want you to be prepared and ready to take that step. We don't want you to walk into the bank and be declined or told that you're not ready. So the best time to start getting prepared is not when you need it. It's at least 2 years before that. So we want to be early in that process to work with entrepreneurs and kind of walk them through the process, so that when the time arises, everything's ready and they're set to go.
That's great. Thanks, Dwayne. I'm excited about that. And I remember you mentioned that when we spoke about a week or two ago. And yeah, we need to reconnect on that. There's some ideas I've got for some content you could include in that program that would be really beneficial and timely for folks that are kind of thinking that direction. So, and we'll be talking about, I never pass up an opportunity to talk about building profitability, despite what the topic is at hand for these sessions. So I'll always review that, because profit's got to come before all the other stuff can happen in business, right? So profit's what drives everything. Our passion, our impact, and all these things, our livelihood. So real quick, Stacy, why don't you share how we originally got connected? That might be of interest to folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always look for events out in the community, and I noticed that there was an event at Riddle Tractor here in the area, and they were doing an informational session on, I think was it fertilizer? Is that?
Yeah, we call it
I can't
pesticides and
remember the
profit.
topic.
Yeah, pesticides and profit.
There you
So
go.
pesticides education, and then I talk about business education. So yeah.
Mhm. So they usually have a group of 20 to 30 folks there in the landscaping um, venue. And so I was able to meet with Jason after the event. And so we've been working together, helping folks in the triad.
Yep. And by the way, I saw Michael this morning, and we're good to go for connecting you into the next couple events. So just wanted to give you a heads up.
Great.
Well, I got your audience with you right now. Might as well let you know. So yeah, thanks for that. And so strategic partnerships are so important because it's a leveraged opportunity to serve businesses. And that's why I'm always looking for strategic partners to align with, because Stacy and Dwayne have a heart for service of small business, and I do too. And when you've put that energy together, the compound effect takes over, and we're able to accomplish a lot more together than we can independently serving the marketplace. So I'm really excited about this program. This is the first of a series that'll be ongoing. The next one, I believe, will be on the 23rd, which is a Wednesday of this month. So every 3 or 4 weeks, we'll kind of be looking at the dates around holidays and stuff. Every 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have these topic-driven sessions, and it'll be a different topic each time. And we'll get input from participants on what they want to hear about too. So we can kind of adapt what topics happen when based on feedback. The feedback's really important. We're always testing and measuring. So I'm a business coach. That's what I do. And I work with an organization called Action Coach. Action Coach has been around for 29 years at this point. In 29 years, we've got a footprint, a pretty significant global footprint in 84 countries now, which is a pretty big presence in just 29 years, I think. And for some perspective, every week, more than 15,000 businesses worldwide sit down and have a meeting with their Action Coach business coach. So the organization has been around a long time. The system that we use works extremely well, and our success is all based on client results. If clients aren't getting results, then the organization wouldn't be where it's at, and I certainly would not have signed on to and be excited about serving businesses through this medium. A little bit about my background. I'll just take a couple seconds on that. I grew up in Hickory. Lived in Boone and Blowing Rock area for about 20 years. And after I got out of school at ASU, I worked out an opportunity to purchase the business that I was working in, which was a retail business. It was outdoor retail, hiking, backpacking, rock climbing gear, and clothing. A business called Foot Sloggers. It's been around since 71 up there. So if you've been in Boone or Blowing Rock, you've probably driven by it, whether you noticed it or not. And it's still up there, but I worked in that business 18 years, and I owned the business 11 of those years. And went to school, double majored in marketing and management, expressly to do that for a living, whether it was Foot Sloggers or starting my own thing. And after purchasing the business, it took me about a year and a half or so to realize business school did not prepare me to be a great business owner. And that was kind of disappointing. I thought I was, the man and had it all figured out. And man, I've double majored in marketing and management. What else could I need to know? I'm going to rule the world. And what ended up happening is I was, as the owner, wearing all these different hats in the business. I had 23 team members, 2 store locations. So I had team, but had never been trained on how to delegate and help people develop their leadership roles and actually take some of the weight and burden off of my shoulders as the business owner. So I was the limiting factor for that business all of those years. And it was a lot of weight and burden and stress and anxiety to deal with and manage. And that takes away from other stuff in your life that's more important than the business is even, right? So having had that experience, I decided at one point to sell the business and move on to something different. My wife grew up in Winston. That's what brought us down here. So we moved to Winston, and this is just a cool area with all kinds of cool stuff going on in the Triad. So I connected with some folks that have a coaching firm here and got to talking with them and decided this is something I want to do to leverage that experience I had up in Boone. The Action Coach resource is a resource I was absolutely looking for and needed at the time, but I wasn't aware of it up in Boone. And being able to help other people shortcut the trial and error involved in getting to where you want to go with your business, there's not much, as far as I'm concerned in my mind, there's not much more valuable impact that I could have on the world than to help people avoid some or most of that in their entrepreneurial journey. So that's what I'm here doing. I've been doing this for about 4.5 years now. And again, anytime I can find a great strategic partner to combine efforts and collaborate with, it's a win-win for everybody involved. So I'm gonna, let's see, pull up a PowerPoint. I promise the whole thing is not going to be PowerPoint. Okay. Some of it will be just to keep some flow moving, but I'm going to go to a desktop drawing pad for some of the things we're going to be talking about too. So I want to start out with talking about a couple of systems to approach building business and profitability in business, and take just a short time on that, and then shift to the mindset topic, which is what the topic at hand is for today's session. And I've got some really good stuff to share with you guys on that. First thing I want to review is what's called the Entrepreneurship Ladder. So when we start out in life, we're a student, and then eventually we get work somewhere, right? So, and a lot of times, like Catherine, you're working somewhere full time, and you got this side gig, and it sounds like you aspire to make the side gig the full-time gig. Is that, am I reading that right?
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, good. So we're an employee, and then at some point, we take that step and we become self-employed. And you are part-time, but it's on its path to becoming a full-time self-employment. And then at some point in growth, we need to hire a couple of team members. So we start to develop some managerial and leadership skills to be able to keep those folks on task and help us with our productivity. So the combined efforts of 2 or 3 or 4 people is much more powerful than one person running around taking care of all these things, right? And then this is the tough dynamic to shift here between manager and owner. This is where people bump their head on this invisible ceiling in business very consistently. Let me move my screen over here so you're not having to look in my ear. There you go. This is the key transition that's so important. Getting from manager, operating in the role of manager for your business, and shifting into the identity and serving the role of owner in your business. And we'll talk about what that looks like in a minute. And then at some point, we have that cash flow, and we need to decide how we're going to leverage that cash flow forward in business or other investments. So we're an investor at that point, managing our cash flow. And along that journey, we've gotten to know other successful business owners, and we are more and more increasingly creative with what we can do and the impact we want to have. Cash flows there, we're taken care of personally, so we're thinking more like community level impact at this point. So how can we leverage our resources at that point forward into some really neat opportunities for impact? So what we've got to do is identify first, where are we at, so we can recognize what's next for us. And the way I like to think about that is, what currency are we using to move forward in this whatever stage we find ourselves in? And the reality is, below this dotted line, we trade time for money. That's the currency we're using. We're trading time for money. But to break through that line, what we've got to learn to do is take the profitability of the business, and we're making an assumption the business is profitable, right? So the business needs to be profitable. And what do we do with that profit? We need to be thoughtful about how we can leverage that profit to start buying back your time. And that's through team members. It's not that we don't have team members when we're self-employed and if we're in the role of manager. At that point, we've probably got a couple of team members that are helping us. But we're starting to leverage the organizational structure through leadership of others to buy back our own time from the business so that we can be concentrating on higher level things in the business. Now, when we're an investor, the profitability and the time that we have, the cash flow and the time that we have are leveraged forward to further scale our income. So we can say you've got this awesome business going on, Catherine, and maybe you've got some aspirations at some point to franchise it or license it, license the concept so other people can use the branding and the way you're doing things. Or it might just be opening up shop in Raleigh. We want to serve the triangle and the triad now. So like, what does that next step down the road look like to scale further? And we think about how we can leverage that cash flow to make that happen. And then up here, we're using our relationships and creativity to put deals together that take multiple partners. And that's where we really become an entrepreneur, is when we're taking relationships and ideas and creativity and putting it all in the resources, putting that together to create some incredible impact in the community. So when we see massive projects happening and you got 2 or 3 or 4 corporate partners working together to pull that off, that's an example of what that looks like. And it doesn't have to be some $500 million project. It can be a $5 million project and still make incredible impact. So again, the point here is, where are we at on the journey? And also understanding there's a dotted line there. And the difference is, are we trading time for money, or are we trading leveraging dollars to move forward? What we're working to build in business, the definition we're after is a commercial, profitable, if I can spell, profitable enterprise that works without you. So that's the definition that we're after. And the most efficient way to get there is to be thoughtful in building the business according to this approach, okay? So the first step is mastery. And there are 4 areas of mastery that we're thinking about here. I'm going to just touch on them and move through this pretty quick so we're not spending way too much time here on it. This can be broken out into a kind of a 10-minute version like I'm doing now, or a 2-hour version, or a 4-month version, or a 4-year version, depending on how deep you want to get into it and where you're at in your business. So this is pretty powerful stuff. So the first area in mastery we're thinking about is time. How can I best leverage my time and the time of my team members along the way so that we're efficient and we're effective? We're also thinking about finance here. So do I understand my P&L report? Am I looking at that at least every month to get a feel for gross profitability and net profitability and what that KPI looks like? And cash flow forecasting. This is where cash flow forecasting comes into play, and that is powerful, but many small businesses, even 30 and 40-year-old businesses that I work with, when I start working with them, they've never created a cash flow forecast before. They've got a lot of history to lean on, And that gives us an idea for seasonality in a business, but it has nothing to do with where we're headed. If we use our history to help us understand where we're headed, then we're not going to get very far year to year. Okay. So I'll just leave that there. We're also thinking about destination mastery. So destination mastery is vision, mission, and culture. Vision is where are we headed? Mission is how are we going to get there? And culture is the rules of the game that how we're going to behave as we interact with each other, as we interact with all of our other stakeholders along that journey. And then fourth is delivery mastery. So in delivery mastery, we're thinking about how consistently are we delivering our product or service. Quality is important, but it is only important after consistency is achieved. Consistency is more important than quality. So a quick example on that is McDonald's. I think it's maybe one of the best examples that we can use. I don't think it's arguable even. It is not the highest quality food, right? But
Right.
I can order a number 2 in Tokyo, and I can order a number 2 in Wilkesboro, and it's a number 2, right? So that's consistency. That's consistency. And they have built an empire on consistency before quality, right? So regardless of what your business or your product or service is, consistency is more important than quality. Of course, quality is important. But if your quality is hit or miss, you're going to lose customers. We need consistency before we start to take steps to increase quality. All right. Next is, well, actually, what have we achieved in mastery? What we've achieved in mastery is taking chaos to control. And by doing that, we create a commercial enterprise. So you'll see how the definition develops itself through the steps here. So next is niche. And this is really marketing and sales is what we mean by niche. What we're working to accomplish here is developing what makes us unique and compelling to our market so that we are not competing on price. Okay? So the way we do that is we develop a USP. A USP is a marketing term. It stands for unique selling proposition. And it's all about, it's what makes us unique to the marketplace. You know, there are other people that bake cakes in the area, right? So what makes your product or service special? And there absolutely are aspects of what you do and how you do it that you need to take a stand on and communicate in your marketing that will help you drive the right customer traffic your way. How can we leverage a guarantee forward into our marketing? So an excellent example here is Domino's Pizza. 30 minutes or less delivery or your pizza's free. That back in the late 70s, early 80s, they made that their thing, and they dominated the home delivery pizza world. And over the years, it was $1 billion market grab, for well over $1 billion market grab for Domino's Pizza. So instead of just using a guarantee to protect ourselves if we screw up, which is very reactionary, how can we rethink our guarantee and leverage it forward in our marketing? The 5 ways, and I want to actually go into some depth in the 5 ways just after this. So this is where profitability comes from in business, and everybody's interested in that. And I always like to add here too, target market. Most businesses, even very well-established businesses, they have an idea of who their customers are, of course, because they've been around for a while, but they have not sat down to define in very strict detail all of the characteristics that define their target audiences. And that's important because we need to understand that before any of our marketing can be effective. This is thinking through these different areas here, particularly USP, guarantee, and target market. That is the different, how we leverage that or how we approach that is the difference between marketing being an investment or an expense in business. That's what makes that difference. So after niche, we're thinking about leverage. And there's 4 areas in business where we can create leverage. There's systems and technology. There's people and education. There's testing and measuring. And there's delivery and distribution. So just a quick example here for delivery and distribution for leverage. Years ago, somebody in a boardroom meeting or maybe just a C-suite meeting at UPS threw out the idea, hey, what if we only took right turns? So how many UPS vehicles are running around out there? About a gazillion and a half.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to take a left turn, there's a higher risk of collision because you're pulling across traffic. There's wasted time because you're waiting on traffic. There's more wear and tear on the brakes and acceleration in the vehicle. So there's more gas usage. There's higher maintenance costs for brakes and such because you're stop, go. I've got a gap in the traffic and gun it across the traffic. So, I mean, that's harder on a vehicle. So they redesigned their routes so that they had to take left turns as infrequently as humanly possible. So they're always going with the flow of traffic. Now think about the leveraged impact on finances and time efficiency and their insurance costs and their gas usage and their maintenance costs. That is a massively leveraged update in delivery and distribution, right? So there are opportunities in each of these 4 areas in every business out there. So that's where we need to get creative, think outside the box. I'm sure somebody in that meeting said, take right turns. How much are you getting paid to sit here? You know? But I would love to have been that guy or gal, whoever it was, because I'm sure that made a big bottom line impact for UPS, right? So next we're thinking about team. This is where we need to be serious about positional contracts. For every single role, including the role of the owner, positional contracts for every single person in the organization. This is where we're starting to really build out our organizational structure. We've got team through here, right? So it's not like we don't have team making these things happen along the way at some point, but up here is where we're actually starting to shift in the direction of building out our organizational structure in the business, which is an important distinction. This is where we need to get really serious on what KPIs each team member is responsible to report and responsible for in regards to performance in their role. And then at some point, we want to be able to hire a GM or an operations manager to operate the business for me. Okay? So down here in Mastery, we created a commercial enterprise. In Niche, we made it profitable. Niche is all about predictable profitability. So we made it profitable there. Leverage is where we made it work because we've got systems implemented here. So now the business is operating like a well-oiled machine. And when we install a GM, now it can operate without you. And I'll just touch on the top 2 here. We're not going to spend much time on these, but synergy and freedom happen up top here. Synergy is where we're looking to scale what we've built here. Replicate what we're doing, duplicate, increase our footprint, franchise, license. There's a lot of different ways to scale business once we've got things dialed in like this. And then freedom is where we're really in that, starting to play that entrepreneur role. How can I leverage my relationships and ideas and my resources to create a compounded effect? And we're also thinking in freedom, we're thinking about legacy wealth at that point too, right? So that's what we call the 6 steps. And this is what we work with every business on, and everybody comes in with different, every business is completely different, right? So how we approach this with every business I'm working with is completely custom because every business is different. So I told you we'd dig into the 5 ways. I'm going to do that and take you just a couple of minutes on that. The 5 ways is where profit comes from. So this is a pretty simple formula that most of us can understand, right? Sales minus expenses gives us profit, right? So there's only so much, and what we're thinking about here is everything that happens up top in the business, and then expenses is our overhead, our rent, our admin labor, company vehicle, these kind of things. So there's only so much we can cut out of our expenses to increase profit before we shoot ourselves in the foot. So Catherine, let's just say that I know it doesn't sound like you're renting a space right now, but let's just say you've got a brick and mortar space for your bakery or your shop. And to cut expenses to increase profit, you could stop paying rent, right? And that would increase the profit until they kick you out, right? So there is that detail. So there's only so much that we can do here. Of course, we want to be diligent about this and efficient with it, but the opportunity doesn't lie here. The opportunity is here to increase profit. But that's kind of ambiguous. Increase sales, that's an ambiguous thing to say that we're going to make our goal. So what we do is we break the sales activity in a business, we break it out into 5 different areas of focus. And by splitting out those different functions in the business and working on them independently, improving them independently, and then putting that back together, it creates the compound effect, and we get a leveraged compound effect to the positive in profitability for the business, okay? So this is a great place to take copious notes, by the way. And I'll make the video available to you so you can review it. So usually this is something that takes about 5 or 6 times thinking through or working through to really get it all to start clicking on what the opportunity is in the business, okay? This is the first thing that I teach every single business that I'm in front of, either working with or in a workshop. I always include this. So what we're after are 3 results in business. We're after more customers, we're after more revenue, and we're after more profit. Those are just results of the activity that's happening in the business, however. So to get customers, what happens, of course, is we have leads. We have people in the marketplace that raise their hand in interest of our product or service. And in that conversation with them, we convert some of them. So there's a conversion rate associated with how many of those leads become a customer, right? And those customers, once they've decided to do business with us, they do business with us ever so frequently over time. So there's an average number of transactions over time. And like for this example, we're thinking about a year, a 12-month period, okay? So these customers, so someone who purchases a cake from you, they've got others in their life that have special occasions and they might also want a cake, right? So it could be that some customers do business with you 4 times a year and some do business with you 1 time a year, right? So there's the average number of transactions. And each time they do business with you, there's an average dollar sale associated with that, right? So we take our customers, multiply it by average number of transactions, and multiply that by our average dollar sale, and that gives us the revenue figure for that year that we're able to bring in. And between revenue and profit here, and just to make a quick distinction, this is gross profit. The opportunity, let's see, let me come back here real quick. Gross profit is misunderstood by most business owners, so that's why I want to stick on this for a second. So sales, by the way we're looking at it here, produces gross profit. And when you take the overhead expenses out, now we're left with net bottom line profit, okay? So gross profit happens when we take our sales and we take out the labor and materials associated with delivering our product or service, okay? So Catherine, your time baking a cake is part of the cost of goods sold, right? Revenue minus cost of goods sold gives us gross profit. And all of the materials to make that cake are part of cost of goods sold too. So if you value your time, let's think about it this way. If you're paying somebody, if it would take $20 an hour to have an employee bake a cake from start to finish, and it took $8 worth of materials to do it, ingredients, that's $28. And if you charge $60, man, why did I make the math complicated? So it's $20 and $10, so it's $30, okay? And if you charge $60 for a cake, then you made a 50% gross profit. That makes sense? So revenue multiplied by the margin that we get to keep, which is a result of that cost of goods sold being taken out of the equation, gives us gross profit. And generally speaking, there are a couple of exceptions, but predominantly an increase in gross profit falls to the bottom line as an increase in net profit. Okay. So when we talk about the opportunity being increasing sales, this is what we're trying to increase. Okay. So having visited all that, what are the activities that lead to all these? So what does it look like in the business? So leads is a result of marketing. Conversion rate is all about your sales process. What is each touch point and what does the positioning look like in your sales process? Average number of transactions is all about repeat business. So if you provide an awesome experience working with that customer the first time they do business with you, it's going to lead to a higher likelihood that they do business with you again. Average dollar sale is all about your pricing strategy or your product assortments, or maybe the way you package your products or services. There's a lot of different ways to improve that. And then margin is all about efficiency. So let's say that it used to cost $20 to have an employee bake a cake for you, but they've gotten really good at it over time. So now it only costs $14 worth of time. So that increase in efficiency means that the bottom line is healthier, right? There are kind of a top hits list in each one of these 5 areas. You know, we talked about the 5 ways. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a kind of a top hits list in each of these areas of strategies, between 60 and 85 strategies that we leverage with folks we're working with to increase these areas in their business. And not all of those 60 to 85 are going to be relevant right now for every business we're working with, but there will be a handful that are relevant right now. And we focus on that. And then later on, as the business grows and develops, other strategies become relevant that weren't relevant before probably. So This is an ongoing practice in a business to continue to increase results. So let's use a quick example here. I'm going to use an example of an auto detail business. They've been in business for 2 years, let's say, and they've actually been measuring this. So we talked about testing and measuring and leverage. This is the first place in business that we should get really serious about testing and measuring, because this is where profit comes from. Okay. So this auto detail business, in the last 12 months, and then here we're going to look at the next 12 months with a little bit of an increase. Okay. So in the last 12 months, they know that they had 4,000 leads. 4,000 people stop in or call about having their car detailed. And they know that they converted 25% of those conversations. So I don't even need a calculator for that one. That's 1,000 customers, right? Over the last 12 months. The average number of transactions was 2. So some people came 3 times, some people came once, but on average, it was 2 visits in the last 12 months over all of their business they had. And the average dollar sale was $100 per visit on average. So 1,000 times 2 is 2,000. Excuse me. 2,000 times 100 gave this business last year a revenue of $200,000. After paying for the labor and the materials like the waxes and the soaps and the rags that they use to detail the vehicles, they retained 25% out of that 200 as gross profit. So not too shabby. So what we do is we look at where can we improve each of these areas in this business. And just for simplicity's sake, we're going to say we're going to increase each of these areas by 10%. Okay. And that's really just moving the needle barely on any of these. So a 10% increase on 4,000 brings it to 4,400, right? And to put that into perspective, 400 more leads in a year, in a 50-week work year, that's 8 more leads a week. So it's not outlandish numbers we're chasing here, okay? A 10% increase in conversion rate takes that up from 25 to 27.5%. That's sales process. That could be as simple as putting somebody with a little bit nicer phone manner in the office to answer the phone when it rings. And that leads to a higher conversion rate. It could be that simple. So the new total number of customers is 1,210. By the way, I use this exact example frequently, so that's why I know the numbers off the top of my head, okay? I'm not quite that brilliant when it comes to off the top of the head numbers. So 1,210 customers, nice jump here. Average number of transactions, a 10% increase. So what would lead to some more repeat business in this auto detail business? Maybe they dress up and paint and freshen up their waiting room and put coffee in there for folks. Maybe they put nice lighting and repaint their bathroom so it's not icky. You know, it's like if you visited somewhere and you're waiting and you go to use the restroom and it's an icky bathroom, the next time you consider where you're going to have your car detailed, that's going to come into play. Okay. So things like that increase the quality of the customer experience and promote repeat business, right? Average dollar sale, this is pretty simple. This could just be a price increase. Or it could be a new product or service that you're offering as a package deal for having a car detailed, and the average dollar sale increases because of an add-on sale or something, right? So 1,210 times 2.2 times 110 year over year gives this business a total of 292,820. Pretty nice jump year to year. This increases from 25% to 27.5%. Again, a 10% increase. Maybe we have a better feel for how much wax we're going to need for the year. So we purchase it in bulk at a volume discount, and that could increase our efficiency and our material costs. that much easily, right? So 292,820 multiplied by this 27.5% creates a year-over-year profitability of 80,525. Pretty nice jump, and that falls straight to the bottom line in this business, unless they purchased equipment or something like that. But we're assuming they didn't have to purchase any additional equipment to achieve that. Excuse me. What's so important about this is the percentages that these represent. This is not an addition sign. This is a multiplication sign, which means this is the compound effect happening through the business's activity. And 10% is not 10%, in other words, right? It compounds. That's a 21% increase in customers year over year. It's a 46% increase in revenue year over year. And it's a 61% increase in profit, which is a massive jump year to year. And as massive of a jump that we see there, that represents, what we see with the clients we're working with is usually somewhere between 80 and 200% year over year, year after year in bottom line profit increase. And it all is based on how we're approaching the 5 ways in the business. And this is where all the activity in the business is happening, but by breaking apart the different functions and approaching them independently, this is where the power lies for profit. Okay. So I'm going to switch back to PowerPoint and we'll get digging into some mindset. But while I do that, I'm interested, Catherine, Stacy, Dwayne, what's your biggest takeaway from those couple of things we just walked through?
Just thinking about my relationship with Catherine, we're going to partner on some really great ways to help one another do this very thing. And, so I'm going to utilize some of her cakes to send out thank yous to existing customers for like loans. And that will give Catherine some exposure as well. Usually when you have a cake, you usually share it with someone. So that's a time where they will be speaking about First National Bank, but their experience, the relationship, also, ways they were able to save time and money. And then they'll also be talking about how wonderful the cake tastes and how they can use Catherine for their next birthday or event or Valentine's, whatever it may be. So
what a great example. So another quick tip is, I won't pull the camera back up, but another quick tip is improvement in one of the 5 ways usually has an impact in multiple of the 5 ways. So to your point, that's what it made me think of, Stacy. If you improve, so you're talking about thanking customers, right, with the cakes. So when you improve that relationship experience, that has a direct impact on repeat business. But you're talking also about increasing leads through referrals. And those leads are a higher quality lead because they are a referral, which lends itself to the conversion being a higher likelihood. It's not a cold lead, it's a warm lead. So by doing that, you've increased average number of transactions, you've increased lead flow and quality of lead flow, and you've increased the conversion rate in what you just shared there. And I bet we could dig in a little further, and there's also positioning that would lend itself to the average dollar sale per customer or client you're working with increasing over time. And I mean, it's just like it's a snowball effect. They're not independent of each other, So that's an excellent example. So Dwayne, Catherine, do you have any takeaways you want to share?
Man, that was, it was amazing. It was mind blowing. And it's not really that you're not aware of these things. It's just the way that you presented it. it just makes you think about these things differently. And if we just talk about lead generation, right, and who you're talking to, and then a lot of times, I know from my perspective, because I do that on a daily basis. I'm knocking on doors and I'm calling people on a daily basis. And one of the things that I really honestly never slow down to really think about is conversion rate. Or, I just try to get to a certain amount of new people every day.
Yeah.
And I really never stopped to think about conversion rate. And so while you were going through that, I was thinking, how do I improve my conversion rate? Is it by changing the quality of the leads? And I've never really thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
I just always had the approach that if you talk to enough people, eventually things will happen, which is true. But now I'm thinking, if you talk to enough of the right people,
Yes.
you're gonna kind of have a better at bat. And so it's just really, even for me, that's, and I'm not even talking about from a direct business perspective. I'm talking about in a specific job role,
Mm-hmm.
how this approach can really, change things and kind of get you to look at the specific items and the specific activities that can cause the changes that you're looking for and give you the results that you need.
Yeah, it's Riddle Tractor. I'm coaching 5 individuals there. I'm coaching the owner, I'm coaching the GM, coaching the service manager, the parts manager, and they just hired a new person who's taken over 2-cycle equipment sales, like weed eaters and leaf blowers and stuff like that. And actually, I'm working with their marketing person too. So there's 6 people I'm working with. And the first conversation I have with every one of them is the 5 ways and how their role impacts different aspects of the 5 ways. And understanding that's the first step. And then next is like getting creative on how can I improve that number? And there's always opportunity. There's always opportunity. I'm just thinking about the bank itself. First National Bank, if I could get a hold of all of the branch managers of 350 branches and teach them this and help them understand how to coach their team on their various roles and how that plays, it would turn that bank on its head. I mean, it would, because it's just we're so used to being working inside the box. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. There's a construction business that actually he's going to be over here. We're going to have a fireside coaching session here in a little bit. I told him it's too nice. We're not going to be meeting in my office here. So he was going on God, it was a crazy amount. It was like 20 some estimates a week. Free estimate, free estimate, free estimate. And he was just running himself ragged doing this. And I said, what if we got it to where you're only going on, okay, let's just take a step the right direction. Let's go on 15. I mean, we want to get to like 5, but let's go, the first step's 15. And qualify more strictly who we're going to go do an estimate for. And we looked at the time savings and the financial savings and the anxiety and stress of him being run ragged. And he executed on it. He put up a new questionnaire up front before he would even go on an estimate. I mean, there's ways to approach all this stuff. So his lead quality was higher, and there's a higher conversion rate too. And his goal, we had to adjust his 2022 goal for a year by 6 weeks into this year because he had blown away the Q1 goal by so much in the first 6 weeks because of how we had approached that and some other things. So that's pretty cool. Like, you got this aspirational goal. It's like, man, I think we can do this in 2022. And we're already increasing that 2 months into 2022. That's pretty cool. Riddle Tractor, well, I'll share with them in a minute. Catherine, what sticks out to you? I know I threw a lot at you there, but what sticks out to you that's most relevant for you right now?
I think my husband is very big picture and I'm not at all. And so I love how this kind of blows it up in that way because he's been telling me this stuff for a while. Like, you need to know how much each cake costs, how much time you're putting into each cake, and that kind
Like
of
this
thing.
guy, yeah.
So this, well, this really makes it super easy for me to go back and look at my numbers. And I think it's an easier way to take the time to do it and plug it in that way, how you showed. So thank you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so powerful. It's also powerful because, especially when you're just getting started on testing and measuring to begin with, and that's whether it's a young business like yours or a 10-year-old business, like so many businesses just don't test and measure anything. They have what some people need out in the marketplace and they make a living that way, but there's so much opportunity gap they don't see. Just knowing where to start measuring, like, well, what do I start with? And this is where you start. And there's nuance and there's stuff to dig into on each of those, but just overall, what's my average number of transactions? And if you don't have a full year, you've been doing it a few years, so you can track it by year, or you can track it by month, or you can track it by quarter, and think about it that way. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this. But thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. That's great. So I'm going to roll through.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question for you, Jason.
Yep.
How would you put a value? So, for example, for baked goods, how do you put a value on time, right? If it takes you an hour to bake 2 dozen cupcakes, how do you put a dollar value on that hour? And I guess this relates to pricing, but how do you put a value on that?
Because I didn't mean to speak over that. So because Catherine's doing it right now, right? So I alluded to it earlier. So I'm going to reference back to it, the way you approach it. You think about what it would cost per hour to pay someone else, to another team member, to do it. And then you assign that value to it, because your time as an owner is worth more than that. But right now you're in the thick of it doing it, right? Until you get other team members involved and stuff. But the way that you assign an accurate gross profit to it before you get to that point, or even if part of your time, because as you're taking steps towards ownership role or managerial role, you're still going to be in productivity yourself part-time. So it's like, if half your time is marketing and sales and half your time is baking cakes, then 50% of the money you're taking out of the business should be part of cost of goods sold, and 50% is overhead. So I'm kind of getting into some details and weeds here, but you think about what it would cost per hour to pay a competent employee to do that for you, and assign that value to it. Okay. That's a great question. Great question. Let's see. I'm going to go back to share and get through a couple more slides here. Thumbs up that you guys can see the screen.
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. So just a quick approaching the 5 ways like we're doing with high impact. So Casual Furniture World, I worked with them for 2 years, and then I didn't work with him for about the last year, but he called me last week, and I'm going to be working with him again because he's got other stuff he wants to improve. So anyway, Casual Furniture World, they've been around for 35 or 40 years now. They've got 3 locations. And when I first started working with them, the task at hand was weak sales in Q2, which is usually a bang up quarter for them for sales. It was way off for whatever reason. It was like weather and different things going on. And he's like, I need help to get this back on track to our revenue goals, because I do not want to let anybody go. It's like, I've got an awesome team. I want to keep them here. And it's my job as the owner, and this is part of mindset too. It's my job as the owner to figure this out. So I got involved, and we decided or determined several different areas that we needed to work on at that moment in their business. We needed to work on destination mastery. Vision, mission, culture had never been established in this 35-year-old business. So we established that. And he started to implement that and really use that in the language in conversation with his team. We identified 4 new strategies in the 5 ways to improve profit and help the team understand how they can contribute to that directly too in their respective roles. We worked on time mastery for Josh, the owner, as well as his managers. So they were a lot more effective with their time. We defined target market more specifically, and we trained the team on updates to their sales process. And we were approaching Labor Day. He said, Labor Day, we've got a couple of months before Labor Day. Labor Day is our biggest sales period of the year. It's our opportunity, I think, to really kick off Q3 sales, or to give us a shot in the arm for Q3, getting us back on track. So I said, Josh, I don't really have a feel for this yet. What do you think, like what would make our work together in the last couple of months valuable and a positive ROI moving forward? What kind of an increase are you looking for? And I needed him to tell me that because I didn't have quite enough context at that early in working with him. And he said, he did some number crunching and he said a 6% increase in sales for that event would give us the shot in the arm that would get us on a different path completely with our revenue and profit goals. And I said, okay, fair enough. Let's see what happens. Hopefully what we've been doing together will work, because you don't know until it happens, right? They had 60% increase in sales, and more importantly, a 68% increase in profit for that time frame. So it just quickly jerked them like way back on track and actually to the positive from where he anticipated being. All the staff were excited about that, achieving that goal because they all contributed to it. So our time together was valuable, I guess is the point. Another quick example. When I first started working with Riddle Tractor, I said, what's the vision? And he said, well, our vision 5-6 years from now is to have this upfit for the new space we own across the street. It's a $1 million+ project. And he's like, in 5 or 6 years, we'd like to get into a position to be able to pull the trigger on that. So I helped him. Actually, I didn't help him hire, but he had selected a GM, and it was a great selection. I started coaching his GM from day one. We been working on. We still continue to work on systems and improving customer service, improving their inventory management, business education for their clients, which is what how Stacy and I met originally. He said once we started seeing results in his business, he's like, I want you to teach all of the landscaping businesses what you've shared with us so that they grow, because we know what's going to happen then. They're going to need more tractors, So I was like, cool, man, let's do it. We created a marketing plan as new inventory came online to communicate that more effectively, individual coaching for different department managers, and established KPIs and held those accountable over time, which meant the result was 43% increase in sales in the first 12 months we worked together. And it's like well beyond that now. I'm not sure what the number is though. 59% increase in profit year over year. And this is a 40-year-old business. And like all of a sudden they've got a 59% increase in bottom line profit. It's like, holy crap, what have we been doing all these years, And most importantly, or most interestingly, we broke ground on that new build out in 15 months working together, and they moved in last November. 6-year goal becomes a 2-year goal, a 2-year realization. So that's the power in all this stuff. So I want to keep rolling here. We've got about 10 or 12 minutes, it looks like. So what we're doing today is not about doing anything that we're doing better, because we'll get more of the same when we do that. We want to do things differently so that we can get different outcomes altogether. Okay. So the 5 ways is an example of that. What we're talking about with mindset today is an example of that. We have got to approach life from a mindset perspective completely differently if we expect any different results or outcomes. Okay? So mindset drives relationship, the health of our relationships, our physical health, our mental health, the health of our bank account, the health of our faith walk, if we're a faithful person. Every aspect of our business, it affects what happens in our business and with our customers. Everything is a result of our mindset, and we can change it. So that's the first thing to understand is you are in control of every aspect of your life. Such a powerful thing to understand, okay? So speaking of control, this is all day, every day, we've got the ability to control this. This is called the point of power. So through the day, as things happen around us or happen to us in life and in business, we can choose to think about those things through a lens or talk about those things through a lens of blame, excuse, and denial. Or we can choose ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So, Catherine, what do you think of when you see the analogy or the acronym BED there? What comes to mind? Where's the descriptive words that come to mind?
Comfortable or lazy or sleep, not in action, I guess.
Man, that was really good. Comfortable, complacent, no action. That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites I've heard in a long time. No action. So, Stacy, what do you think about when you see the acronym OR?
I think of something in action, like an or, like you're getting it done, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So you've got control. You're moving
Yeah.
forward. You're moving forward,
Moving forward.
but you're also in control of moving any direction that you want to. Also,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not just moving forward; it's any direction. So what we want to do is think about what direction do we want to head. Before we can get there, we've got to turn that direction. And that's what we're talking about with everything we're talking about. We're talking about new perspectives, right? With mindset, we've got to shift the direction in our mindset. In such a powerful way, we can do this all day, every day, is when things happen to us or happen around us. If I think, like when I was driving here from Riddle Tractor this morning from coaching them, I got on Highway 52, and there's some crazies out there. And so somebody was doing something, and I thought something really negative, and I caught myself, and I'm like, dude, they've got stuff going on, and I have no idea what they've got going on in their life that would make them behave that way driving. But you know what? I'm in control of myself and the way I think about that and how it affects me, and how I'm going to pay that energy forward to the positive or to the negative moving forward in my day. I've got control of that. So I'm getting better at controlling those thoughts. So when we choose to describe things, and this is like when we don't hit results for ourselves too. Like think about in our business when we don't hit results. Well, the market factors, inflation, COVID, you know, all these different things. Is that above the point of power or below the point of power?
Below.
Below.
Below. Mm-hmm.
That's excuses and blame. Market factors. They were busy, so they didn't want to talk to me right now. Whatever. It's excuses. It's reasons that we're not achieving results, right? And when we live there with the way we're perceiving things around us, we choose to play the victim in our story. But alternately, when we take ownership of what's happening around us and how we can respond to those things, we choose to play the hero in our story. And what sounds more appealing? Now, I'd rather be a hero and wear a cape than choose to be a victim. Choose to be a victim, right?
Exactly.
So below the point of power, that's where reasons happen. And above the point of power, that's where all the results that we desire come from. Powerful. I've actually got this. I've got a 13-year-old, and I should have had it in my bedroom at that age too, but my parents didn't know this at that time. I have got this on his wall in his bedroom. And when he says, "Dad, blah 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 blah," whatever he's coming up with that he's upset about, I said, "That sounds like below the point. How you just said that. Can you say the same thing using language above the point of power?" "Well, I didn't turn my work in on time, and next time I need to do this or set an alarm or put it on my calendar to the completely different dynamic." You know, so powerful, so powerful. Do you have something, Dwayne?
No, I mean, you can use this stuff for parenting too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like every now and then,
No,
my son or my wife will say,
No.
"Don't use that coaching stuff with me right now." Like, okay. But
already thinking of how I can use this, man.
that's right. So actually, some of the clients that I work with, they have this posted outside their office door. If you're coming in to talk to me about something, are you coming in to communicate above the point of power or below? And if you're going to be talking blame, excuse, and denial about what's going on without a solution, don't come in until you figure out how to frame it above the point of power. Powerful stuff. It forces your team to think about how can I contribute forward in a positive way, right? So these two words get in the way of business owners so frequently, is thinking I know. So Dwayne earlier said, I've heard all these things before, but Dwayne's here, he's open-minded because I know him well enough now. He's open-minded and he's soaking it up, and he had some great perspectives that resonated with him earlier on what he had heard. And like I said before we kicked it off, none of this stuff you can't find in a book or on a video somewhere. But it's like, how do you piece it together? How does it work together most effectively? What's the perspective? And as soon as you come into a conversation or an opportunity to learn with an employee, with a team member, with a customer, and they're saying something and you're thinking, whether you verbalize it or not, you're thinking, I know, yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, I knew about that factory shutting down, or yeah, I knew about that factory opening up, or I knew about this business being sold, da 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 da. As soon as you think that, you're cutting off communication. It doesn't promote communication. And what they were about to share next with you might have been really valuable perspective that you hadn't thought of, and you don't get it because you're like, yeah, I heard that already, and you just shut it down, right? So this is, and how many of us were a teenager at some point? Around about 100% of us. So when we're teenagers, I remember, and I still do it, you know, like my son is a talker. So like to get him to shut up, I'm like, I know, son, I know. And I catch myself like, Jason, you got to find a different way to do that, you know? But my mom would be communicating to me in high school before I'd go out somewhere. Now remember this, and be safe, and drive safe, and drive defensively. And I know, Mom, I know. And the conversation was kaput at that point. You know, there's nowhere for it to go. So encourage conversation to move forward, because what perspective they have to share with you is valuable. And even if it is something you've heard before, it gives them a chance to be heard too. And particularly when we're thinking about business with team members, how powerful is it for them to feel like they're being heard? It's so powerful. Mm-hmm. So kick the I know. We don't even want to think the I know. Catch yourself and open up your mind, open up your posture even, because so much communication is body language. Tell me about that, mm-hmm. You know? Instead of like on the way out the door, oh yeah, what were you saying? Yeah, they're going to hurry it up. Oh, I'll tell you later. Okay, see you. Or you can stop and come reposition yourself. Tell me about that. I heard a little bit about it, but what did you hear? And encourage it. So another powerful mindset shift. You got to be willing to have some fun along the way. This is something, as simple as it seems, I really missed the boat on when I owned the stores up in Boone. I was so focused on what was next and what was coming down the pipe that I didn't enjoy now nearly enough. This is a great quote from one of our other coaches. He's in New Zealand. He's actually my master coach. I work with him every week. Abundance cannot exist where there is drama and complexity. Very powerful quote. So I've actually got that written up on my wall over here. Hey there. So last week I discovered that we had some technical issues with the final portion of our recording where we were actually digging into the mindset topics we were discussing. So I've got a different shirt on. It's a different day. I'm going to review those concepts right now. All right. So I just want to point out, we're going to go over a few concepts of mindset, but in each of these concepts that I want to share in short form with you today, there's a lot of depth to dig into and understand and be able to implement for ourselves as business owners and leaders, to teach and coach our team members on how to integrate and leverage these ideas in their lives and in our businesses, as well as the relationships that we have outside of business. So suffice it to say, there's a lot to dig into here, but I'm just going to be covering general concepts. The first one we're going to talk about is obviously an important one. It's called the formula for change. So before change occurs in a person, these things have to be the case. This has to unfold in a person's mind for them to adopt or take action on changing something. So the formula is D times V plus F has got to be greater than R. So that stands for, D stands for dissatisfaction. V stands for vision. F stands for first steps. And R stands for resistance. So the idea here is there's resistance for me making a change, but in order for me to decide to make a change about something, I've got to be dissatisfied about what I've currently got for my reality, and I have to have a vision for what it will look like when it's been resolved. So dissatisfaction times vision, this is the power in the equation. And then I've got to understand the first steps to get to the different outcome. And all of that has got to overcome the resistance to doing something about it. Okay? So just a quick example. Let's say that I'm overweight and I want to lose some weight. So my resistance is, well, I've been holding this extra weight for a long time, and it will be a lot of work, and I don't have clothes that fit. I'll look silly when I go to the gym because I'll be out of shape, and all these different things that go through our mind that might help us not to make a decision to do something about it. So that's the resistance, right? But at some point, I might get ticked off to the point that, you know what? I know what it feels like. That'd be vision, but I don't want to feel sluggish. I want to be able to keep up with my son as he's running around and biking and running, and I can't do that without losing my breath. And I'm not having as much fun with him as a parent as I feel like I should. So I'm dissatisfied about that. And the vision is, well, I know in the past, I know what it feels like to be in great shape and not to be carrying this extra weight and to have stronger cardiovascular fitness. So dissatisfaction times vision, that's all got to be there. And then I've got to understand clearly what the first steps would be. Well, I need to probably purchase some clothes that I can be comfortable in, getting some exercise again. And I also need to know what kind of program is best for me so that I can take steps that are logical early on and then progress through losing that weight and getting in better shape. So that's D times V plus F has got to be greater than R. So this is happening for us as owners of our business. deciding to invest more in marketing, right? The resistance is, well, the marketing I've done in the past hasn't worked that well, and I feel like it's just been a black hole of expense. So that might be an example of a resistance in our business. But at some point, you know what? I am getting B or C or D customers, and I'd really like to get A customers. So I'm dissatisfied with the quality or maybe the quantity of leads that I'm getting in my business. And I know that I need to do some different marketing. I need to find a solution for this. And the vision is, man, if I just could fix my lead flow and the quality of the leads coming in, the whole business would be headed in a different direction in a short order. So dissatisfaction is painted, vision is painted. First steps, well, I need to do some due diligence and talk to a few marketing agencies and vet them and figure out where I want to make that investment, what makes the most sense for me and my business, because my business is unique and not all solutions are meant for all types of businesses, right? So I need to do some due diligence, but once I figure that out, I'm dissatisfied with my results. I know what it's going to look like. It's going to be awesome to have really positive results in my business, profitable, working with customers I want to work with. Now I've selected a great marketing agency that I've got a lot of confidence in, and I side on the dotted line to get them taking some action, helping me get new leads in my business. Okay, so this is happening for us as business owners. This is happening for our team members. When we're challenging our team members to grow their skill set or to do some things differently than they've done in the past so that we can get different results, this is happening in their mind. This is happening for your customers, right? Let's just say that you sell vehicles and you've got a customer coming in to consider purchasing a vehicle from you. So the resistance is, well, they're sticker shock because these things are expensive. And, well, my old car works fine. I just would like to have a new one. But, fact is my old car works fine. So, but when that old car breaks down, there's your dissatisfaction, right? And when I go to your car dealership, I see what it looks like to have a car that looks shiny, is in better shape, and it runs and operates really well, and it's comfortable. So dissatisfaction and vision are there. First steps, well, it's easy to do business with this. All we need to do is 1, 2, 3, and we'll get you out the door with your new vehicle. So depending on how easy it is to buy from you, those first steps can really help to decrease resistance or overcome the resistance, right? So this is an important concept. Let's move on to scarcity versus abundance. So we've all heard this, right? Do you have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset? Is your glass half empty or is your glass half full? And there's a lot to dig into here. But this is where we believe that when I win, someone else has to lose. And this is where we're thinking, when I win, there's no reason why everybody else can't also win. Okay? And I want to frame this a little bit differently. This is some input or perspective from a book by a gentleman named Wallace Wattles. Science of Getting Rich or something like that. I can't remember the title of the book, but you can look it up and find it. And he positions this a little differently. Instead of scarcity versus abundance, he uses competition versus creativity. And I think that's awesome. Because in business, what does scarcity versus abundance mean? That's a little ambiguous, but in business, I think this is what it's all about. I think he hit the nail on the head with this. So are we thinking about what our competitors are doing or what our competitors will do when we take action on something in our business? Are they going to mimic us? Are they going to try to undercut us? Or can we not be bothered with them and just be thinking forward about our own situation and how to continue to serve our customers better, to take care of all of our stakeholders, our team members, ourselves as well? How can we get creative to get completely different results and continue to lead the marketplace. Because the more that we're thinking here and here, the less we are leading the marketplace. And that's really where we want to be in business. We want to lead the marketplace so that everybody else that's on this side of the equation is always playing catch up with us. Okay? This is a real powerful one. This is as well. So the most powerful conversation you will have in life is with yourself, about yourself, when you're by yourself. So we've all heard, out there in the world of meditation and affirmations, there's affirmations. Like I said, there's meditation, and there's this idea about the two words, I am. When we're by ourselves, talking about ourselves, when we're I got my tongue twisted here. When we're by ourselves, talking about ourselves, this is what matters. I'm worthless. I'm not good enough. I didn't take enough action. Or I'm powerful. I've got everything that I need in order to succeed. I'm in control of every aspect of my life. The two words I am are so, so important. And this is for us as owners, and of course any of your team or other people you have relationships with. What is your self-talk? What does your self-talk tell you? Because this is what drives your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind drives your conscious mind and activity. Okay? So we do have the ability to reprogram the way we think about things. That's why affirmations and I am is so important. And it's not about necessarily. I'm trying to think about how to frame this. Repetition is vitally important. We need this to happen consistently. So consistency and repetition is very important for this to reprogram our thought patterns. And I'll talk a little bit more about thought patterns in a moment. But I am, what we say to ourselves, about ourselves, when we're by ourselves, that's the most important conversation we ever have. And when we're talking to ourselves about what's happening in front of us and around us, there's three places that we tend to live. Okay? And when we choose to live in the past with our thoughts, many times what we're thinking about is, what we're regretful of. This leads to over-analysis or analysis paralysis. So we don't make decisions because we're living in we're overthinking things, right? So actually, I want to write that down because that's enough. That's important enough to have its own space here. Overthinking things. This is where we fear the repeat of a situation that we don't want to have happen again. This might be where we're thinking, I wasn't good enough at that time to get different outcomes. So when we live in the past, in our thoughts, this is typically where we're going. And then we get results based on those thoughts. Now, when we live in the future with our thoughts, this is where we experience anxiety and worry. And this is where we're thinking possibly, I won't be good enough. I wasn't good enough. I won't be good enough. Also, we're fearful of repeating something that's happened in the past. You know, we've got this reference point and we're fearful of that happening again, right? So what we've got to do is, as things are happening around us in life, we've got to get to a place and we've got to work on this, okay? We've got to work on living in the present as much as possible, because this is where we actually have power. I don't have any power over the past. It's totally gone. I don't have any power over the future. I don't know what the future holds exactly, but I have power over what I'm doing right now and what I'm doing today. I've got control over what I'm doing now and what I'm doing today. I can take action now. I can't take action in the past. I can't take action in the future. I can take action now, though. And that will lead my future to an awesome place, depending on my decisions, right? This is where we can hone in our focus on what really will make the biggest difference. This is where we can control results. Where we place our focus in life will lead to the results that we get in life. And this is where we get to practice presence with our team members, our stakeholders in our business, and our family and other loved ones and friends, right? I remember when I owned the outdoor retail business, I would come home and after a day at work, I would come home and we'd sit down to have dinner. We had family dinner every night. We still do. And at that dinner, my family could tell that mentally I was somewhere else. I was here or I was here. I was not present with them. And I didn't understand how to control that. You know, I was trying to be a great, diligent business owner and always be thoughtful of what can I do better, how can I position differently, how can I move away from debt and towards a better situation. But it robbed my family of my full presence at the dinner table, right? And that's not fair to them. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to those around you not to be present. I'm sure you've been in conversation with someone at some point where you can tell that their mind is elsewhere, right? And it's not a great conversation because you're thinking, God, this person really isn't very engaged or doesn't really care about what I've got to say here, right? So this is our opportunity and our goal, to live in the present time, knowing that the future will take care of itself if we focus here and live here with our thoughts. All right? Emotion is energy in motion. And you can control your emotions. And I'm not talking about subduing your emotions. I'm talking about directing your emotions. Okay? So I'm not talking about not losing your temper necessarily when something goes wrong. What I'm talking about is being able to address that so that you never lose your temper. I'll speak a little bit more about that in a moment. But if we think back on the previous page here, energy and motion. If we're living in the past and these things are dominating our thoughts, then this is going to lead to emotion, and it's going to lead to the results we get. Energy will be in motion, and we will get the results of living in the past. If we live in anxiety and worry in the future, that energy in motion will lead to fear and hesitation and, again, overthinking, overanalysis, right? But when we're living in the present and we've got control, that energy in motion leads to every result that we want, and every relationship that is in front of us at the moment gets our full attention. So how can we control our emotions and outcomes? The way that we do that is to change by changing our thoughts. Sounds simple, right? And it is. It's simple, but it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because by the time we're 7 years old, our subconscious has been developed so that when A happens, this is how we feel about it. Those triggers are already dead set in our subconscious, okay? And that's from our upbringing from 0 to 7 years of age. And after that point, it takes some hard work. It is a simple idea to change our thoughts, to change our outcomes. That's a simple idea, but it's not easy because our subconscious runs the show, and it takes a while, and it takes repetition and consistency and thinking differently before our subconscious changes the way it's directing our conscious behavior, okay? So the last idea I want to share with you here that kind of builds on that. What happens in our mind is, something happens around us or happens to us, and that leads to a thought. And that thought leads to a sensation or an emotion. And that emotion leads to a mood. And then at that point, we have to make a decision here as well. Am I going to live in the past, present, or future with this? Am I regretful? Am I present? Or am I anxious? Our child mind or our mastermind, it goes two different directions here. Child mind is at 0 to 7 years of age. This is how I've always dealt with this situation. When someone cuts me off in traffic, I give them the bird. That's our child mind, right? That's not a mastermind behavior. Our mastermind thinks critically and makes a decision to think about things differently, which leads to a different outcome, right? So let me just give an example here. I'm actually going to pull this up on my screen so I can remember the notes I have on it. Here we go. There we go. So we have a thought. And let's say that thought is, I'm not good enough. And that leads to a sensation. Sometimes I might feel that in kind of the bottom of my throat. I'm not good enough and I'm worried about what's going to happen. So I've got a sensation. Sensation is here not just the word emotion, because you can feel it. You've heard the phrase butterflies in my stomach. Or you get sweaty palms, or in the back of your neck. There's a sensation that's associated with a thought. So that thought, I'm not good enough, can lead to a sensation. Let's just say that sensation is in the bottom of my throat. I'm feeling uneasy, right? And that leads to a mood of uneasiness. And that mood leads to anxiety. Anxiety about what's to come, because I'm thinking I'm not good enough, right? I'm anxious. And that anxiety, if it's not put into check before this point, I get to a place where I might have a panic attack. That anxiety could lead to a panic attack because my child mind has not been put in check, and I'm starting to exhibit physical and emotional and mental proof of the path that started with my thought, right? And the outcome is, at some point, I might become depressed because I'm always anxious about the future, and I don't feel like I've got any control over that. so I have depression. Or I could think I'm not good enough, have that sensation, and realize it here. And then recognize, you know what? That's the old way that I used to deal with that thought. I'm going to put a new thought in there. Instead of I'm not good enough, maybe the alternate thought that I could think is I can handle anything that life throws at me. That's just a suggestion for what might be the opposite of I'm not good enough, that thought. So when we change that thought, we sense it here. Hey, this, when I get the feeling in the bottom of my throat, hey, that's a signal that I need to change my thought. I'm not good enough. So if I instead think and believe, I can handle anything that life throws at me. Now how can I believe that and choose to believe that? Well, the fact is I've survived to this point, right? I wouldn't be here having these sensations or these moods or these thoughts if I hadn't survived everything to this point in life. So in fact, I can handle anything life throws at me. Right? The sensation is eased up. I don't have that feeling in the bottom of my throat. Okay, so what can I do about it? And that emotion might change to empowerment. I feel strong. I feel powerful. And my mood is one of power and strength. And taking on the world. The world is my oyster. That has me living in the present. Hey, what can I do about it? I can handle anything life throws at me. So this is what life's throwing at me today. What's my best course of action? What's the most relevant action that I can take today to make my outcomes what I'd like to see in the future? Okay, so when we change our thoughts, everything originates right here. When we change our thoughts, everything else shifts into a different direction. This is the power of mindset. So those are the concepts I wanted to share with you today. Like I said, there's a lot more to dig into with each of those. There's a lot of depth to be understood and to develop and to integrate into our the way we live our lives and the way that we think and our patterns. So what I'll leave you with is for every one of you, we're all in a different place, right? So for every one of you, in respect to your business, what we covered here today, there's going to be 2 or 3 specifically relevant items for you to focus on. One of them needs to be one of the mindset ideas to develop and integrate into your way of living and way of operating your business. But you also need to be thoughtful of the 5 ways that we covered and the 6 steps. You know, how am I going to grow my business? How am I going to get to the next level? Mindset drives all of it. But we've also got to develop some skills and get creative to get those results as well. I am happy to get with you one-on-one and talk about, because every business is completely different, right? To talk with you one-on-one about what those 2 or 3 most relevant action items are for your business that will make the most difference in the next 60, 90 days. Because that's really what we can control right now, you know. Be on the lookout for when we have our next session. And think about who you might want to invite to join next time, all right? And between now and then, make this a great day and make this a great week. Cheers.